Hello filmmakers, it's Kerry with Filmmaker Central, and we have a wireless lavalier mic system, the Comica CVM-WM100 Plus. Stay right there, we'll be right back. One of the things that you learn early on in filmmaking is audio can be more important than video. If you have an okay video, if the video is decent and it looks good and it's exposed well, it doesn't have to be like the super highest quality image, but if the video looks good and you have crappy audio, you have a bad video. If you have that same video and you have good audio, then you have a good video. Audio is super, super important. And getting the best audio can be tricky at times. And that's why there are so many different microphones on the market. There are garbage microphones and there are great microphones. Now, I have a lot of microphones. I probably have 6 or 8 different microphones that are used for different situations to maximize what I'm getting at any given time. My favorites are wireless lavalier mics because they're just handy. Now, in this video, I'm not concerned about hiding my microphone. It's right here. It goes down my shirt into a transmitter that's in my pocket over to the camera. This is a filmmaker channel. I'm not shooting a film. So hiding the lavalier in this situation, not that important. What's more important is getting good audio. Now, I'm going to talk about, I will get to the WM100 Plus, but I also want to compare it to some of the other leading microphones in the same kind of sort of category and why the WM100 Plus might be a good fit for you. And a lot of this boils down to budget. If you're a budget filmmaker, if you're getting started, maybe you can't afford the highest end products and you need to conserve some money. That's where the WM100 Plus sits. It's in a budget category. Now, if we look at the DJI microphone, awesome package, very well thought out, tons and tons of features, built-in recording, 200 meters of range, and the transmitter is super, super tiny. You're also paying $329 for the DJI mic. Now, is that worth it? Yeah, it is for the people who can easily afford that package. You need to step down a little bit in price? Sure. We've got the Comica Boom X-D, and it's only slightly larger than the DJI mic system. In fact, the Boom X-D is what I'm using right now. That's why I only have one of the transmitters. I've got a transmitter in my pocket, I've got their microphone, I've got the receiver sitting on the Sony a7 III. Comica Boom X-D, I've been using this for months, super, super happy with it. And we're a step down in price from the DJI mic. The Boom X-D Pro is $269. So still good chunk of change, but it's a great microphone. Next, we move to the Rode Wireless Go 2. Now, these I have used for years. This is the original Go. I've got the Go 2. They are great microphones. They have their limitations and they're kind of dated in terms of features, but they still are a great buy. Now, these are going to go for $243. So a little step down in price, but you are stepping down in some features as well, but maybe this is a good fit for you. The WM100 Plus, this whole package that I'm going to show you comes in at $180. So it is a good deal, less expensive than any of these. What are you trading? Well, you are trading a few things. Number one, size. When we look at $329 for a DJI mic or $180 for the WM100 Plus, there's a significant size difference. This is smaller than the 2 AA batteries that fit in the transmitter. This is tiny. So I'd say, I guess the largest one would be the Rode Wireless Go. Still significantly smaller than the WM100 Plus. Size is not everything. You also need to look at the feature set. For $180, can this do what you need it to do? And when you're on a budget, well, you really have to look at, are you getting enough value, or do you need to save up for something else? Now, a big advantage of all of these, the DJI, the Rode, and the Comica, is they all have built-in microphones. So it's one of the cool things about these, any of these other ones, they're so small, I can clip them somewhere. I can actually hide these under my shirt, and I'm done. That's all I need. With the WM100 Plus, there is no microphone on here, but it does come with a lavalier, just like this one. So it's very easy to hide a lavalier mic under the clothes. Don't need to for this video. This is not a film. This is a product video, so I don't care if you see the microphone. But they do come with their own lavalier mics. So what do you get in this package? Well, you do, just like the other ones, the DJI mic, the Rode Wireless Go 2, and the Comica, you do get 2 transmitters. So you can mic up 2 people at the same time. Great for interviews or, you know, a lot of other different type of applications. You don't need to use a lavalier mic. You could run a shotgun mic or a boom mic or something else into these and just have that wireless transmission back to the receiver. So they're more functional than just a lavalier. They can be used with other microphones as well as can the other ones. And then you have the receiver, and it's got 2 antennas, 2 radios. Makes sense, all right? So let me put this down here for a moment, move my coffee. So you do have a pretty large footprint when it comes to these. Again, we're trading the convenience of size for price. So let's keep that in mind. Now let's move into what also comes in the package. If I can find my zippers. Okay, well, first off, also in the box, is a cold shoe to quarter 20 mount. So this can go on top of a camera or any other cold shoe mount. And all of these, the receivers and the transmitter, all have a quarter 20 screw on the bottom, making this very easy to mount on all kinds of things. In the outside pocket here, we've got this mesh pocket here, and we'll start with some of the accessories that it comes with. So first, XLR adapter. Now, personally, I haven't used an XLR system in a long time. I used to have them that it was XLR into a audio interface that went into the computer. That's how I recorded my videos. If you go back a couple years, I was using XLR mics. Now, this still could come in handy if you are using a secondary recorder like a Zoom H2, something like that, where you want to go into the XLR input. If you're shooting a wedding and the DJ has XLR input, dink, go right into it, no problem. So there are still situations where XLR is handy and it comes with the XLR adapter. Okay. Second, you've got the standard 3.5 millimeter connector that goes from the receiver to your camera. You've got a USB cable. There's 3 of them. You only get 1 USB cable, whatever. You get 2 of the lavalier mics. And again, that's the same lavalier mic I'm using here, with the difference that it does have a locking screw that goes into the transmitter. So if you're using these and you can screw this in, this absolutely ensures that you've got a good connection going to the transmitter and that there's no way for it to pull out. I haven't had a wireless system with a locking connection like this since the Sennheisers, and that was a long time ago. So kind of handy there. You've got a couple belt clips for each of these, and I have that on one of these transmitters, so I can easily slip this over my belt or over my pants or something, so I can hide the transmitter behind my back or something and run a hidden lavalier mic up. And then it also comes with two little fuzzy muffies, dead cats, whatever you want to call them, to go over the lavalier mics if we're out in the wind and we need to cut down that wind noise. So, in terms of package and accessories, we've got a really nice package here. Very complete package. Kind of everything a beginner filmmaker needs, whoops, for $180. And I have microphones, just individual microphones, that cost more than that. So to get two microphones, two lavalier mics with the wireless system for 180 bucks, again, super good value. But how are the specs? And if the specs aren't any good, well, you have a problem. But let's look at the specs. Range. Now, the DJI mic, the Wireless Go 2, the Comica Boom X-D Pro, those are all rated at about 200 meters. Now, think about that. That's farther than 2 football fields. I see no reason why you would ever be doing a recording like that. I mean, your subject is going to be so far away, it's just not really feasible. Now, what it really means, though, it's just like when we talk about 6 miles of range with a drone. It doesn't mean someone needs to be able to fly 6 miles away. It's not even legal in the United States. But what it means is there's less interference when you're in a congested, like Wi-Fi environment. So that's where more power can be better. The WM100 Plus is still rated for 100 meters. That's still a little bit further than a football field. So that's a lot of range. Now, one scenario maybe where, 100 meters is going to be, you could actually use that, might be if you're shooting a football game and you want the coaches to be mic'd up so you can hear what they're saying. Okay, all of these are going to have the range to do something like that. But in a fairly normal scenario, you're really not going that far away from your subject. But still, 100 meters still means there's going to be very, very little, if any, interference from anything else. They also have 48 different channels. So if there's a problem on a particular channel, it will auto scan and find a different channel. Now, if they get out of, if they lose their pairing, I guess would be the way to put it, you can just hit a button, point them at each other, and using infrared, they will resync. The other ones, they all have like some binding process, a button that you can hold to go into binding mode. Now, the receiver itself has not only the output to go to the camera, it has a second one, and that's for headphones. So you can do real-time audio monitoring to make sure that you're getting the right audio. Now, the Wireless Go doesn't have that, and I think that is a killer feature. You really need to have your cameraman being able to listen to the audio to make sure that it's not breaking up, to make sure it's hearing both people, that the levels are correct. All that is very, very important. Now, they also have 6 hours of battery standby. That's pretty impressive. The downside there is while all these other ones are fully rechargeable, the WM100 Plus uses 2 AA batteries. So each one of these needs 2 AA batteries. You can use alkaline batteries, you can use rechargeable batteries. I have a ton of Eneloop AA batteries that I've been using for a number of years, and those work great in here. There's also dual power output settings. There's a high power and a low power. So if you don't need that high power and everything is working great on the low power, that low power is going to save you some battery. So that's kind of cool. All right, so that's your basic specs. There's 2 things that people are really going to be concerned about, and that's the signal to noise ratio and the latency. And latency is going to be what kind of delay is there from the transmitter to the receiver. And if that delay is too much, then the lips are going to be out of sync with the video. So that would be bad. And that was certainly a problem with wireless systems in the past, is sometimes you had to offset things. You had to offset the audio and the video to get everything to match perfectly. Well, the WM100 Plus has less than 20 milliseconds of latency. So you're never going to see that difference between the audio and the video. The signal to noise ratio is better than 65 dB. So that's supposed to be pretty darn good. Again, we need to put these to the test. And what I'm not going to do is do some really high-end audio testing, because I feel that the person who's looking at this really is more interested in how do they work in a real-world environment. What do they sound like? You know, are they too bassy? Are they too tinny? Am I getting the range out of them? You know, those are the things that are going to matter to someone who's on a budget looking for these. They're not going to be as concerned about the noise floor unless it's really bad. But as long as, like, I would shut up and you wouldn't hear anything, well, then that's good, you know? Or can it be cleaned up if you need to just a little bit? So that is going to be what we're going to do next. We're going to set these up in a real world environment. We're going to be indoors and outdoors and see what we get. Now, unfortunately, it is pretty windy today. Well, so we'll see how that works out using their wind muffs and things to cut down on the wind noise. So next step, we got to do some testing. Okay, so this would be, you know, kind of a typical setup if you were doing, you know, a two-person interview or something. I'm not going to bother to set up stools and everything, but distance-wise, we're about 2 meters from the camera, and we've got the wireless system up. The lavalier is hidden behind my shirt here. The audio levels look really good. I got it dialed in. I turned the camera audio recording volume down really, really low and letting the receiver push the volume into the camera. I'm using the Sony ZV-1, so it doesn't have the best preamps, so I want a higher level from the receiver and a lower level on the camera. If I had really, really good amps in the camera, then I could switch that, but this should be giving really good sound. Now, there's no other sound going on in the house right now, so I'm just going to shut up for a moment. So there you have it in terms of sound and the sound quality and how the sound feels. Does it feel good? Does it have a good tone to it? With the bass and the mid-tones and everything, does it sound good to you? So next, well, we kind of need to go outside, and I don't know if I'm going to do some range testing, because I'd have to go pretty freaking far, you know, to go 100 yards down the street, but let's see what it sounds like outside. There's a little bit of breeze going on, and the wind has been gusting a little bit, so I'll put the wind muff on here, and we'll see how that works. Now, you can see a little bit of wind here, the trees moving around, and you may be picking up some of the rustle from, but there is a pretty good wind today. Now, how's it working? Well, I'm not going to know till I get this into the computer and take a look at it. But I'm going to move away from the tree so we're not picking up the leaf noise. See, there's kind of a breeze going on out here. We'll see just how well the wind muff works, how good the audio quality is outside. Behind me is a construction site, so we've got noise over there. We got a busy street over here, so I got cars going by over there. There's a lot of ambient noise going on outside. So how well does this isolate the sound? How well is it just picking me up versus everything else? So that will be a good test of the WM100. So I think it's time we turn off the camera and go back to the studio. Okay, we went out, we did some tests. Let's check out the results. First off, question may be, how did I mount everything? And I think I missed that when I was talking about what's included in here. But right here is a cold shoe mount. Now, what I did was, let me grab the receiver and screwed that in to the bottom of the receiver. Got the ZV-1, and then I ran the output from here into the microphone jack on the ZV-1. So pretty simple setup, not too shabby. A little cumbersome. It's bigger than the camera, but it worked. So first test indoors on the couch, doing kind of what a fairly typical distance would be in an interview shot. So let's take a look at that. Now in this scenario, it worked flawlessly. There was very, very little background noise. There was a very low noise floor. In that scenario, I think it worked perfectly. I'd be very happy using it in that scenario. But now let's go outside. We'll put a little bit of distance. Now remember, I have the receiver, I mean the transmitter in my pocket. It's not behind me, it's on my side. So for the most part, it should be basically facing, or at least in line of sight to the camera. Now let's take a look at that clip. Now what you notice there, what I saw anyway, was it sounded like there was some clipping or some dropouts. However, it only happened when I wasn't talking, which I found kind of interesting. I don't think that's necessarily a noise removal. I'm not really sure. It didn't seem to drop out when I was talking, but as soon as I stopped, it sounded like it cut off. So that's something that might need to be, I need to play around with some more and see if that's really an issue or what's going on with that. But as I got closer to the camera, then I didn't notice it at all. And in that particular range where I wasn't hearing any type of dropouts, it sounded really, really good. There is background noise, and I told you on the clip that there is background noise, and it picked up some of it, but it did a pretty good job of isolating myself. And if I ran just a tiny, tiny bit of noise reduction, it would have sounded absolutely perfect. So the range thing, I'm not really sure of. I'm not going to go walk for a football field to see. I think that was a good test. And since generally you're going to be within 8, 10, 20 feet of the subject, I don't really think that that's a deal breaker if it's not getting 100 meters of range. Now, it very well could if the antennas were sticking straight up and everything was optimal, maybe that would work better. Not really sure. Again, things I need to play around with. It didn't really say anything about the antennas or how to orient them. There's things I could probably do to improve that. But I wanted to really look at this as a quick plug-and-play solution. How does it work in a real-world environment? So I still think that for a budget filmmaker that needs to save, $100 or so on their kit, and they want a complete kit for doing more close-up work with people, even weddings and things where you're not going to be that far away from the subject, I still think this is a good value. At $180, there really isn't anything else on the market that's going to give you such a broad feature set and accessory kit for that price. So check them out. I'll put a link below and in the description if you want to learn more about Comica. Now, this is not a sponsored video. They did send this to me to test, but they're not seeing this video before it goes out. This is 100% an unbiased review, and I showed you some pros and cons of it, and it's really just my opinion on this particular setup. So, budget friendly, sure. Good feature set, yep. Good audio quality, absolutely. I think it works. So, if you're in the market, this may be an option for you. This has been Kerry with Filmmaker Central. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time. Bye-bye.